Hi, everyone. It's Tanya MFK here, and welcome to your 52 Weeks of Momentum lesson recap. And let's be honest, this is going to be a little more than a lesson recap. It has been a while since we've been in here, and the reason is because a lot has changed in 52 Weeks of Momentum. Major change. It's now called AMP. It's now actually almost a different program. It has a new name. It has new branding. There's been a lot of new things going along. And as we were going to 52 weeks of momentum, which was week by week by week, this last part of the year, we've actually shifted into quarterly. Right. So now, instead of the weekly lessons that we were so used to, it is now kind of this quarterly approach, which doesn't have really a specific set kind of agenda for the content, but it does have a specific agenda to what we are doing for ourselves and whatnot. So there's a lot that we're going to jump in and cover, but if it is your first time, welcome. I'm Tanya Marie Figueres-Kreisinger, more easily known as Tanya MFK, and I come here. Used to be every week. Now we'll see how it goes between now and the end of the year, but I come in here and I basically recap what I'm learning as I go through Benjamin Hardy's 52 Weeks of Momentum / AMP course. So if you missed the sign up, then of course you're welcome to tag along. However, at this point in the juncture, signups are open. So feel free to go in there, check it out on Benjamin Hardy website. And I think you can go ahead and join probably now. There are some new people coming in on a regular basis and our group is growing and growing. So you can do that now. But if you're still wondering kind of what it's about, what's going on in here, then come hang out with me, Tanya MFK. Happy to have you. This is not a substitute for the course. It's just the things I'm learning, what I'm seeing as I go along with it. So you can gain a lot from here. And then, of course, if you're ready, go ahead and jump in and get a piece of your own momentum and get amped, maybe that's the thing we say, to get in there and get into Benjamin Hardy's course. All right. So we left off at week 37. And so we are now looking at this as the final quarter of the year. That's where we are. That's where we're seeing this. And as I said, the approach, there is an approach, it's not this weekly necessarily content type of thing, but there is an approach. And what it is the first month, like everything's going to go quarterly, but this first month is going to go with review, design, activate. So review, design, and activate. And what that kind of means is review where you're at, see where you're at, gather yourself up. What's going on? Review it. Do I like it? What's happening? Then design what you really want. What do I want? What's this next quarter going to look like? Remember, talking about quarters. So what is this next quarter going to look like? And then what am I going to do to go hit it, go make it happen? All right, so review, design, activate. So then the second month of that quarter is really coming back to those things we've set and reinforcing it. If we see that we're falling off, we're doing, we're not headed exactly where we want to be, then what can we do to reinforce those efforts to get back on track, to course correct, and then move even faster, right? Because now we got a little less time. So let's get in there and accelerate. So this is called the reinforce and accelerate part of the quarter. And then the final month is now looked at the refine and complete. So again, I think that refining is, we've done what we could to reinforce it. We've really looked at, hopefully we've honed it in. And now there might just be little tweaks because we're going to be awesome by then, right? So there's going to be little tweaks that we come in and do and kind of refine, make sure it's exactly how we like it. And then we're going to complete it. We're going to hit those goals that we set for the quarter, or the design that we've laid out for the quarter, right? So that is really this new approach to the same information, the same kind of stuff that's coming out, the same teachings that he's offering, but this is now the concept. So, if you're like, what happened? Where'd you go? That's what happened. It was just a lot of new stuff. We're like, well, how do we approach this now when it's not weekly content? So how do I come in and what am I sharing? Because it's kind of like, there was a lot going on. So in preparation for that, if you find where you're at now, look at your goals, where you were and where you are at now and where you were, are still going to be completely different than where you're going to be by the end of this year. And where you started January 1st, looking at this hopeful new year, where are you now? And what now, right? What now and what can still be done, completed, refined, reinforced, all those great things between now and the end of the year. So this is what we need to come to. And I knew that. And coming in, so I came in and I was like, I need to dig really deep. I was feeling a little conflicted when I came back from LA. If you guys saw me last time, my hair's grown out a little bit since, but I got it all chopped off. We went for new. And I was, I was a little conflicted with my own, just kind of all the different things and goals. I was excited about things and I'm like, oh, do I need to start doing this? And I realized I need to come back and I need to revisit my goals. And so I actually started going into my own questionnaire that I gathered from things that were posed to us through Benjamin Hardy, from Brendan Bouchard, from, Darren Hardy, several different, Joe Dispenza, a lot of the books we've been reading, they give these wonderful like self-reflection questions and writing opportunities. And I was like, you know what? I need this all in one place, right? It's great to read all the books. It's great to have all those things. But I honestly, if they say, you should ask yourself this, I don't stop when I'm reading and then like reflect on that. I usually, and maybe it's because I'm systematic, I want to get to the end of what that book is saying. So I keep reading. I'm like, yeah, I should ask myself that like at some point, but I don't come back and do it. So I was like, how rad would it be to like get all that stuff and just put it on one place and like do this like real big question, answer, self-reflection, digging deep type of thing. And so that has been what I've been doing. That's the exciting side project in my life right now. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of the things that I've kind of gathered, because these are also some of the questions that Benjamin Hardy has posed to us as we're going into this new cycle of the course. So, I wanted to make sure that I have huge momentum and aha moments and that I'm not dragging my feet. I want to make sure that I have my intentions clear. And I know that in order to keep it up, I need to be diligent in having these conversations with myself and to continue on having these regular intervals and having this plan and really setting specific time aside to think. Right? Like, I don't know about you. I know as an entrepreneur, you're sitting here and you're doing all this work and you kind of have this schedule. If you're as crazy as me, you have this schedule and you think about it and you're like, oh, that's a good idea, but I can't think about that now. Like, that's not on the agenda. I need to be back here, which is good. That's a discipline. It's a wonderful discipline in and of itself. But when is the time? When do you put that time? And the truth is rarely do we actually just schedule time to think. Like, for this hour, I need to just like abstractly think. Like, we don't, but why? Why can't we? We can do that. And really, we need to do that. We need to give us that space, especially if you're regimented like me. Perhaps my husband said that when he sees the book, he's reading it and I post that question, he'll stop and he'll just like spend the rest of the time doing it until he's finished that. And then he'll keep moving the book. I think that's amazing. It just doesn't, like, my brain doesn't work like that. Like, I'm just like, well, no, I'm in the middle of reading the book. I have to finish reading this part I said I'm going to read. And then if I have time, I'll go and answer that question. So I very much thrive in having that time to say, you know what, this time is like, okay, I'm not wasting time. I'm not off track. I've actually set this time aside just to do this. So with that said, here are a few things that are on my question answer sheet. I am going to tell you right now, because I'm crazy, this worksheet has actually turned out to be, without being filled out yet, 47 pages. And I know it sounds crazy and daunting. I'm not going to go through 47 pages right now, but at all, don't worry. But I keep finding stuff and I'm like, oh, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And I'm always reading, I'm always listening to my Seth Godins and my Tim Ferrisses and all these different people and the Joe Dispenzas and going, oh yeah, I should think about that. I should think about that too. And now I have a place to put it all. So I keep adding stuff and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I'm really excited. Like, as I'm going through it, I'm like, this is going to be good. This is like, whoo, I'm so going to be ready for this new year. And of course, like, the goals I'm going to hit by the end of this year, like, I am pumped just on that. So again, I'm going to come back to a few highlights of how this really started. Actually, it's kind of when I first started it, I was writing these notes to share with you guys. And so here are a few things here. So we have some clarity exercises and questions, and these get really general at first, like, who am I? Who am I? And again, what does that mean? Well, answer the question. You might feel like that seems weird. Okay, we'll start answering it. Who am I? Because rarely are we looking at it for ourselves. We're usually hearing that through somebody else. We're usually basing it through the eyes of somebody else. And rarely are we answering that question ourselves, unless someone asks. But no one asks that. So, this is why that question's so helpful, right? So I love this. Who am I? Like, whew, Pandora's box right there. You just start writing like, oh, I don't know. Like, what does that mean? Who am I? I guess I'm this, I'm that. And just like we've learned, is journaling just gets started and not just goes and just expands. All right. Then the next one is, what do I value? Right. I think that one's a little more easier, but again, it's good for us to revisit and be very clear. We have to be clear, right? This is about clarity, and we get clear by asking questions. So what do you value? You may think you know, you have in the back of your head. Okay, good. Write it down. Write it down. Make it really clear. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Right? It's time to get really honest with yourself. What are the things that are your strong points? And what are your weak points? These are things that we need to look at, face, understand about ourselves. And what are my goals? That was a Pandora's box for me. That was like, raw, which is why I ended up with a lot more questions on there. So I was like, once I get there, what do I do with it? And then we started really digging into like, well, then what do you want for this? And what is the priority for this year? And that, and it went on. I get excited about this, but again, let's start just there. What are my goals? And then what's my plan? So if those are my goals, well, what am I going to do with it? Right. And this goes back to what we're saying here. Is the review for this, the first part of the quarter is review, design, and activate, right? So that review, design, activate, this is that design part, well, what is my plan? You can't just say, I want this thing. Like, okay, what are you gonna do about it? What's the first step? I always use the same example, which is so funny. I use it because I honestly have never had to do a landscaping project, but I always say, it's like landscaping. You can't say, oh, well, we're gonna landscape our yard. Okay, well, what are you going to do? Like, you can't just hire a landscaper. You're like, hey, can you come landscape? Like, you're like, yeah, sure. Like, so what do you want? Like, what's the plan? Nope, just come landscape, whatever. Like, it doesn't work that way. You have to have specifics. You have to break it down. You're like, well, we want this, we'll put a pond, we want to, whatever. You got to have an idea. You can't just say landscape. Like, I can't just do marketing. Like, boop, 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 I'm marketing. Like, I have to know, I have to have steps of what I'm doing to market something. So I love that. What's my plan? And you can't have ambiguous goals, right? They need to be unambiguous. So you need to ask yourself, do I know what I want? Am I clear about my goals and passions? Do I really understand this? Do I know who I am? Right? Am I clear about my values, strengths, and weaknesses? Notice them, like kind of the same thing. Do I know how to get what I want? There's the plan part, and do I have a plan to achieve those dreams? Right? So you're like, oh, this is what I need to do. And that next level of clarity is so we see who we are. Well, who do I want to be? Right? That's completely different. You can say, well, this is who I am. This is what I see myself. Well, who do I want to be? And what do I need to know and be able to do to be that person? Like, if you see yourself, you're like, I want to be, an astronaut, right? I want to be, okay, well, what do you need to know and be able to do that? Right? It's an extreme, example, but you get it. And how do I help others achieve what they want and need? If you haven't learned, if you haven't been following along, one of the things we talked about is, the best way for you to reach your goals is actually help others reach theirs. It's amazing. There's something about it. I've practiced it this year. I've experienced it firsthand when in the midst of a lot of chaos, I just felt really, really compelled to offer my help to somebody as they were getting something off the ground. And as they did that, I did it with no expectation. I just, I was following along this program and they were talking about it. I was like, you know what, I need to do that. And then there was a particular person I felt very compelled to help. And so I said, hey, you know what, I'm telling you, I'm available to do this, I'm available to help. And I did, and I was able to help them a lot. They've been very thankful. I've been working with them ever since. But they have, with again, no expectation, no understanding of how it would even connect with what I'm doing. They ended up being able to send me so many clients and so many people that I ended up working with and helping with, and it just opened everything tenfold. So again, big deal here, right? Big deal of really, what can you do to help others achieve what they want and need? And what you'll learn by doing that is huge. So then we want to talk, there's this thing called the Future 4, something that I looked at, and it says, if you could describe your ideal self in the future, the person you are trying to become, how would you describe that future self? And then describe your future using and your best self in just 3 words, right? So you kind of go through the long words, like, all right, well, let's just pick 3 words now. Like, what does that mean? And take that and go, well, how do I embody that now? How do I do that right now? Why are we waiting? Why are we waiting to this whole, I got to wait till this, so I can be that person? How about now? You've just defined it. Now it's really clear. Be that. Be, do, have, right? Be it. just embody it. That's how I need to act. That's what I need to, and do the things that person would do. And you will be that person. You will have the things that person would have, right? Just, it's right there. Okay. And then we have, starting like that now, and then describe how you've perceived yourself in the following situations over the past several months: with your significant other, at work, with the kids or your team, in social situations, with strangers. And so this is a nice, again, this is self-check, right? We're back in this review section. Like, where am I at? Who am I at? What am I doing? So I like how specific this is it's like, I want you to look over the last couple months and go, how have I acted in these situations? And is that really how I see myself being in the future? Perhaps you were short with somebody, rude. Maybe you were in a bad mood and came off, pissy to a clerk, which they did nothing. You were just like, can you get my change, please? Or something, whatever, right? I don't know. I'm from California and LA. You see that kind of attitude a lot. Sometimes you're like, ugh. Or sometimes you do it yourself. You're just like, you're in a mood and somehow it's like everyone else has to pay for it. So, and then you look back, you're like, God, I was kind of a bee with that, right? Like, I need to stop being such a bee. So is that how you really see yourself being in the future? And how would your future self look, feel, and behave differently in those situations? So again, we identify and then we look at the plan. How do we change it though? What was it and how do we make it different? If you could describe yourself in just 3 aspirational words that would sum up who you are at your best in the future, what would those words be? And why are those words meaningful to you? Again, I just love this exercise there. So moving into that, we go to social. So anticipating positive social interactions. Write down each person's name in your immediate family and team. And imagine that in 20 years, each of these people are describing why they love and respect you. If each person could say just 3 words to summarize the interactions they had with you in their life, what would you want those 3 words to be? And now, the next time that you're with each of those people, approach your time as an opportunity to demonstrate those 3 qualities. And again, we're talking about be that person now, right? Like, I love these exercises. They're so like simple and attainable. And something you can be like, yeah, like this makes sense. But you got to go through the question. You got to answer this stuff, right? I mean, that was really exciting. So then skills, there's a couple more, and then we'll go into the other parts here. So skills, we have, really thinking about what you really want, what you're interested in, what you really want to do. And you want to make sure the stuff is well defined. Like, you don't want to say, well, I'd love to do music or more music. Like, what does that mean? Maybe you're like, I would like to get to this level at the classical 5-string guitar. You're like, whoa, okay, that's way more specific. So think about it, write it down, and what would make people successful in that field or the thing that you want to do. And under each of those skills, write down what you're going to do to help develop that. And when are you going to do that? Set up a plan, right? The plan. We talked about this in the very beginning in Be So Good They Can't Ignore You. He talks about, this is a I forget his name, Cal Newport, and he talks about deliberate practice. And the deliberate practice, I love this idea of, you aren't good. You're not good so you stop practicing. You are good because you're practicing. Like, you practice so you can continue to be good. Like, Michael Jordan didn't make it to the NBA and say, okay, well, cool, I'm good, and start practicing. Like, that's why he was good, because he kept pushing, he kept practicing. We need to be deliberate about practicing and being the best whatever we want to be. So do that. Write down the 3 skills that you would need to succeed in that same field, the same thing you want to do for 5 to 10 years from now. Again, some of this can be like kind of business related. That's why it's looking like this, or maybe it's just a fun thing you want to learn. So you can take that same concept, answer that, and see how you can really create that plan and design what it is that you want. And then really looking at service real quick, because again, what we started here with was envisioning the future for, and that is social, that is skills, that's service, and wait, I feel like I'm missing something. It was one other one. Future for, darn it. Did I miss it? Social, skills, service, and something else. I read the other one. I'm so sorry, guys. Anyway, that's what we're looking at. So service, looking at tomorrow, the details of how they work and interact with others is how integral is others. Now, okay, so the details of how we interact is so important that if we want to leave a contribution to the world and really have like a lasting legacy, so we need to really like want to provide value. And so you need to ask yourself, like, if you want to, and this is a Brendon Burchard thing, if you want to like have these high performance habits, when you think about these things, what area could you have more intention in? What area are you considering? Have you not been considering people who you currently like serve or are leading? And if you really want to leave that lasting impression, then what contributions can you start making right now? So this is just, again, it's all about clarity, asking yourself questions so you can get to like what you really want. I know when you're asked just point blank, what do you want in life? Like, you probably want a lot, but that question just, it like stumps you, it stops you. And it makes it difficult for it to really start flowing about what you really want. So I think these kind of questions help pull that out of you. That's the big difference, right? So also, I love this, is the feeling you're after. Like, what do you actually want to feel? So ask yourself often, what is the primary feeling I want to bring to these situations in my life? And what is the primary feeling I want out of the situation? So as you go through life, you're asking yourself, what is it that I want out of this? What is it that I want to bring to this? If you're constantly checking in like that, like you're going to be like an awesome human. Like you're going to be like, wow, I'm a pretty rad human by doing these things. So another thing real here is, as we were required over the last couple months, was to read Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. So a few questions from Joe Dispenza that were really helpful. And this is, again, he says kind of, who are you? What has been real? What's the real stuff that's actually happening? Not your perception of it, like what's really happening. These are the things that have happened. What has not been so great? And what are you feeling underneath? He said, we really have this outer persona that we put out to people. So who and what are we really feeling underneath that? Are there emotional scars or beliefs that you're holding on to? How much energy is tied into these past emotions? So, if you have guilt, fear, or judgment for something that you did, like, are you really spending all day like focusing on this? If you have a lot of, it's just again, it's about identifying it, not it's just, is that something you're doing? And what could you do if you weren't focused on just surviving, just getting through the day, like something bigger than that, like enjoying your day, loving life? And what is the gap between this person that we put out to everybody and the one who we really are? Like what is in between that? What's keeping us from those two really connecting? So like I said, I started working on this and it was like already taking more than a day. And now it has grown into bigger and bigger and bigger. I can't imagine that you would finish this in one sitting. It's just, if you really wanted the benefit from it, it's something to, as far as my worksheet, to like really go through it. I mean, it might even be its own course for all I know. But I'll tell you this, what the point of this really comes down to is that if you want to get to something real, if you really want to identify what it is that you want and where you want to go, then you need to ask yourself questions in order to get clarity. It doesn't just, it's not something on our mind. It's to constantly look and design our life. We're dealing with what comes at us. And this is asking us to determine what we want in a completely different way. So that's what I like about looking at things like this. And if you are interested, let me know, throw a comment below. And when that worksheet's done, I will happily send it along. There's no catch, no anything, just check it out. I'm really excited to go through it to see what it does for my own self. And I would be happy for anyone else to have a same experience. And then, let me know. And you're like, if you want to add to me, maybe we'll make some master finding yourself kind of questionnaire, right? Who knows? So a few more points to run through that Benjamin Hardy did bring to us through this kind of change and transition is that, first of all, things can get overwhelming. We know that things can get overwhelming. This has been a big race. There's been a lot of exciting things that have gone on, but it also could be, where we can, it's easy to overdo it. It's easy to do a lot and be like, oh my gosh, there's a lot. So something to really keep in mind is that Pareto Principle, the 80-20, that's the Pareto Principle. And the thing is that 80% of your results come from 20% of the effort. And so we really need to learn how to hone in and rein in on focusing on the things that matter. That 20% that actually brings most of the results we want into our lives or our businesses. This is where we need to take the time to identify these things, and also to identify the habits, people, friends, or clients that are no longer serving us or our goals or the life that we want. Right? So that's that 80-20. So if only 20% is bringing the results, and that means there's a whole lot of crap and the other things that we should really take the time to identify and say, you know what? I'm doing this because I feel obligated, or I was doing this because I thought it was good. And now that I step back and look at it, it isn't serving me, and I need to do things different. I need to uncommit to the things that are not helping me grow. And this could be something as simple in business. For a lot of people, it may go, hey, you're doing Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and, Facebook and everything. And all of the people who are engaging with your company is coming from Instagram. No one's talking to you on Twitter. Stop doing Twitter. Oh, but they say Twitter's helpful. Yeah, it is. But right now it's the 20%, 80% of, or 80% of your results coming from that 20% on Instagram. So just stop it. Like, focus here right now. And then as that becomes as fruitful as you need it to be, then maybe it's time to venture into this. But why? We don't need to, jack of all trades, master of none. Stick over there. And this also can be, something in your life, maybe something like you're like in a book club and it's a lot of fun, but maybe it's taking from other things that you want to do, or perhaps are, developing a passion about. And then you feel this commitment. So it's time to uncommit. It's time to really see what is serving you and what isn't serving you. So this 80-20 Pareto Principle, if you're not familiar with this, look it up. Tim Ferriss talks about it a lot in his 4-hour work week as well. And it's been around much longer than Tim Ferriss or anyone else, but it's, and it works in many areas of life. So if you're not familiar with it, check it out. Another thing that I love that he brought up is your life is a product of your standards. And this has been a consistent theme, but it's so good to hear it again, is everything you do reflects the standards that you've set up for yourself. As Tony Robbins says, your life is a reflection of what you tolerate. So if you're feeling sluggish and eating unhealthy, then you're obviously willing to tolerate eating low quality food. And if you're feeling overwhelmed or too busy, then you have set a standard that peace is not important to you and your time is not valuable. And it may be hard to hear it that way. Like, I've never said that. But you did, but you are. When you experience it as what it is, it's the standard that you're setting. You are usually, and I just read this thing. It was Seth Godin. He wrote it in 2010, but it was like, you are the world's worst boss. Because no matter whether you work for yourself or somebody else, you are in charge of this. And if your actual boss talked to you the way that you talk to yourself, like, it would just, you would have quit by now, right? Like, it is up to us and the standards that we set. So if we're putting ourselves to a place of busy, then we're saying, my time isn't valuable. And because busy, in that negative tone, it's overwhelm. It's too much. Busy is usually that's too much, right? So I really, really love that, just being reminded of that. And so another part of this was never be the former anything. We have talked about this before as well. But what this really is that it doesn't matter, oh, well, I was the number one this, good or bad, our company hit this level at this time. If you're always trying to one up, like, when does it stop? And vice versa. If you're like, well, it can't get better because I've always been here. Like, we can't attach to those things. We can't attach to these outcomes. We need to push through it, learn from the outcomes, learn from the past, and then move on to what we're focused on, not to this idea or the former anything that we've been. It doesn't define us and it doesn't stay with us. So it's time to continue to become who we are. And that is always going to be striving to the best of who we are, the best version of ourselves. And then we have declare and commit to your highest goals. So as you're going through this, if you're going through these clarity questions, if you're hearing these things and you're like, yes, 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 and you're writing stuff down and you're having these aha moments, then there's going to come a point where you need to declare and commit, right? You need to get serious. And the quote, again, we've heard this a lot in the class, is, the Gandhi quote, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. And if you're wondering, like, what exactly does that mean? It's something as simple as, you tell yourself, I want to eat healthy today. I want to eat healthy today. And then you end up eating crap and you're like, damn it. So then you feel guilty. That's not happiness. Like that, you might be like, wow, that cake was so good. But then the guilt comes in and you don't feel so good. And you don't feel so good because the happiness is when the things that you think and what you say and what you do are all the same thing, right? If you're like, I'm going to eat healthy, then you eat healthy. And then you think healthy. And then in a day you're like, I ate healthy. Then all of a sudden you're like, I feel really good about that. I feel really good about what I just did. Right? It's that. So when we even when we try to like justify it, If our true desire was to eat better and we don't, then we're going to feel like crap. So we need to make a declaration, like a really true commitment of what we want, who we want to be, how we want to be, and then we need to walk in that now. Like we need to be like, this is going to be the way it is. And then we need to walk in that and not wait for some magic day when we arrive to be that person or when it's going to all be ready. We just need to come and say, you know what, damn it, this is it. And I'm going to embody those actions now. I need to be the way that that person would act until it becomes us, right? Until it becomes us, we act our way into the feeling and not feel our way into the action. Can't wait till we feel that way. Like we need to just do sometimes, just do it. All right. So that's our declare and commit. We also need to be ready for obstacles and have a plan, because as we go through these changes, as we push ourselves this last quarter, and if we take these principles and we continue them through our life, there is going to be resistance. There's going to be resistance from ourselves. There's going to be outside resistance. And so you need to understand and have some sort of coping mechanism in place of what you want to do when that comes. When that comes to you, what are you going to do? Because if you don't have an act plan, if you haven't thought about what you're going to do when that happens, then when it does and the shit hits the fan, you're going to go to the knee-jerk reaction and do whatever it is that you've always done, which is going to revert back to the person that you are and not the person that you want to be. So you need to have that plan. And that goes for if it's stress, if it's when, somebody just sets you off, maybe it's a phone call with a family member or something. What are you going to do when that happens, when those triggers happen? What is the plan? We talked about the stress plan a couple of months ago, and it was, well, okay, when that happens, I need to go for a walk, 3-minute walk, maybe it's eat a piece of chocolate. I mean, again, whatever that is, maybe it's calling a friend that will just let you vent for a couple of minutes and then walk away from the situation and then come back. It's much better to know these are the things I need to do that will flush it out of me. Then I'm just going to build it in and build it in and build it in until it's, heart palpitations, freakouts, overworked adrenal glands, all of these terrible things. Have that plan, have it in place to know how you're going to deal with this. So be ready for those obstacles. And another huge part that we mentioned in here that Benjamin Hardy brought up is, again, accountability. We have learned in the last lesson that I recapped from the Darren Hardy's interview that there are several ways to bring accountability into your life. There's proof everywhere that it works. Like I should not have to prove to you and be like, oh my gosh, there's all these examples. Like it works. Accountability works, because if you could have done it on your own, you would have done it by now. Like we do better when we're being watched, period. So whatever way, and we've talked about several ways throughout this course that you can bring, and I believe we even have a lesson that's just about accountability and all the different ways, and I think 7 ways or 6 ways that you can bring accountability to your life, whether that is through your, if you have a partner or someone that can do that with you, a friend, teammate. There's also a lot of other ways you can hold yourself accountable if you're the only one in it. There are lots of options. So go and check out that episode. But finding accountability as you are going through this is huge. And then peak states, that is the morning routines. We wake up feeling so many different ways. So honestly, telling you right now, I actually had a wonderful evening when I got everything ready, was like kind of done on time. I was like, man, I'm feeling really accomplished, really good. And I went to sleep and I woke up, like I don't watch TV, let alone scary movies or anything like that. I had a dream that's like I was being chased and someone was trying to shoot me, like literally. And I woke up and I was just like, oh my God, like feeling so stressed and so crazy. Like I wasn't like in that mind frame. I wasn't trying to create that, but that was just like there. I was like, oh my God. And it took me a few minutes to snap out of it. And here's the thing is like we wake up feeling different ways all kinds of times. So regardless of how we feel, we need some sort of like grounding routine, something that helps us snap out of it, whatever it is. Maybe it's not a crazy dream, but maybe it's just feeling a little blah, or maybe it's feeling a little stressful or crazy, or thinking about the past, which is, if you go back to Joe Dispenza, he says that's what we're all doing. And then we tend to live in that past. So having something that brings us back, snaps us out of it, reminds us what we want our day to be, what we want to focus on, what we're striving for, what we're alive for, what we're fighting for. This is so important. And really a lot of what this becomes is a morning routine, whatever that is. This is a time for you to remember your goals. This is a time to do meditations or journal, hydrate, meditate, all the things that put you in the best place and to be the best choice of the person to meet these goals. And I thought about this, like if you had a lineup of people and you saw, this guy was, super tired and nodding off, and this guy over here just had like too much caffeine. He's just like, oh, and then like this guy's over here is like hydrating, having a good breakfast and happy and meditating. And this person over here is like spinning in circles. And you're like, okay, out of this lineup, you have to pick one person who's going to meet your goals for the day. Who are you going to pick? Who are you going to choose? Like, I know like only one good choice. It's the guy who seems pretty balanced and together and taking care of himself, right? That's the one I want to finish my goals. And that needs to be you. You are the person out of the lineup that needs to be chosen, and not be any of those other ones that are like, totally crazy spastic. And a morning routine like this allows you to be that person, allows you to have that balance and be ready. And that person will accomplish goals. That person accomplishes stuff. That the person comes through and feels good. Right? That's why we do something like this. This is why it's not just to emulate some CEOs for whatever reason. There's power in these actions. Okay. So, remember, you want to operate from your highest standards, not the standards of your past. And then honorable mention here is evening routines, right? So a good morning routine starts with a good evening routine. So if you're prepped and ready and you know what time you're waking up in the morning, you know that you have time for a morning routine. Why? Because you've set it up. You've mentally prepared yourself of what you're doing in the morning. It is just as important to have that together and to have something and ready so you have a great morning routine. One of my favorite things to do, and I've mentioned a million times, also the 3 wins practice, where you write at the end of the day what your 3 wins were, which are wins. So that's already a positive thing. And you're like, hey, look at me. I had 3 wins. And then you go into what your 3 wins are going to be beforehand. You choose for the next day what your 3 wins will be that next day. That's what you, and I love that practice. There's so many benefits to that. We do have a worksheet for that if you are interested in trying that out. It's really simple, but sometimes it's just easier when someone gives you something to fill it out. So be happy to throw a comment below or something. We'll throw that, try to remember to put a link in here for you. Check that out. Really awesome. And honestly, I would rather forget to get dressed and go run my errands naked than like forget to do this. It's that important, right? It's just, that's what it is. So really bringing that all back in, you're setting your goals from now until the end of the year. You're going to start looking at your goals also for the next year. You are uncommitting to the things that don't serve you and bring you to that higher goal, higher purpose. You're going to set up some sort of morning routine so you can be your best for the day and bring some sort of accountability into your life and live by design. Right? This was a long-winded way to say that. Do those things. If you want to try out this worksheet, like I said, just shoot me a message, shoot me a comment below. I will help you out with that. We'll get that to you. And I will also see what we can set up to get some links to make it easier as well. But since it's not the normal week-to-week thing, I will just be popping in between now and the end of the year as things come up that I can share that are great, exciting, things that we're learning, and those gold nuggets and gems. And then hopefully we'll see how everyone is doing by the end of this. Like, it's been a year. We've only been hanging out for a year. Like, crazy. I know people have gotten married after like 5 months. Like, we're close now. We're close. All right. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Again, as you know, I am Tanya MFK, and you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I focus on all of these types of things, but for entrepreneurs. So we really talk about a lot of business and a lot of, pulling ourselves together as entrepreneurs and what we go through and how to not completely lose it. So go ahead and check me out if that's something that works for you. Have a great week, and I will see you soon-ish. All right. Bye.